eighth meeting of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food, pursuant to Standing Order 81-4 and the orders made on Monday, April 20th, 2020, and on Wednesday, September 30th, 2020, the committee begins the study of the main estimates 2020-21. Vote 1 under the Canadian Dairy Commission, Vote 1 under Canadian Grain Commission, Votes 1, 5, and 10 under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food. La réunion d'aujourd'hui se déroule.
Today's meeting is in hybrid mode, pursuant to the order adopted September 23rd, 2020, and deliberations will be published on the House of Commons website. The webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the committee. So to guarantee the smooth running of our meeting, a few rules. MPs and witnesses can speak in the official language of their choice. At the bottom of your screen, you can choose between English and French. Before taking the floor, please wait until I name you. And I would like to remind you that all MP and witnesses' observations should be addressed to the chair. Rest assured that your microphone is muted when you're not speaking, and that applies to the chair as well.
And I would like to welcome our witnesses for the panelists this afternoon. Alors, avec nous cet après-midi, on a l'honneur d'avoir
with us the Honorable Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau. We welcome you and we thank you for having taken the time to come here before us today and address the members of our committee.
Shall start, et Madame Bibeau, on vous donne la parole pour un discours d'ouverture. Alors, la parole est à vous, Madame.
The floor is yours, Madam Minister. Thank you, Chair. I know that my Deputy Minister, Chris Forbes, is at my side, Madam Walter as well, and Colleen Barnes for the CFIA. And the colleagues, my colleagues who are online, haven't heard us yet. So could the technical team please fix that? So I would like to say good afternoon to all my honorable colleagues. Thank you for your relentless work in the agriculture and agribusiness sectors. I wish to thank you for your recent report on business risk management, which rests on your excellent work. We're turning our attention today on our department's main estimates 2020-2021, which forecasts investments worth more than $2.5 billion for the Canadian agriculture and agribusiness sector. These funds will help producers and transformers to take advantage of opportunities, manage business risks, invest in innovations, protect our environment, and foster sustainable agricultural growth, both environmentally and in human terms as well. I would like to highlight the work done by all of the producers and stakeholders in the sector to ensure that Canadians are fed at all times, but even during this pandemic. From day one of the pandemic, they made adjustments to ensure our food supply, despite significant difficulties, and our government is providing them with support every step of the way. We've made investments during the last 8 months, and we will continue to make strategic investments to maintain a solid supply chain and ensure the safety of workers. Here's a recent example, Mr. Chair. The emergency program for worker safety on the farm, supported by federal investment of $35 million, will help more than 4,500 Canadian agriculture producers to cover the costs of protecting their workers. These costs are associated with PPE, enhancements for housing workers, as well as with disinfection stations. We've also invested $50 million to assist more than 3,000 farm employers to assume costs for quarantine measures needed to protect their workers. And to meet producers' concerns, We've broadened the Canadian Emergency Business Account. Producers will have access to an interest-free loan of $60,000, and the account will be open for those businesses that use personal accounts. We'll be able to help up to 85,000 producers by giving them a total of loans up to $5.1 billion, and 1/3 of these loans is non-reimbursable, in keeping with some conditions, which could represent a direct transfer of $1.7 billion to producers.
Programs. Our surplus food rescue program is expected to redirect about 6 million kilos of food to Canadians in need, while helping to stabilize markets for farmers. And we are investing $200 million to help food aid organizations continue their vital service to Canadians in need through the pandemic. Across Canada, the first installment of $100 million has supported more than 3,200 local food organizations, including 6 million meals for 2 million Canadians. Looking ahead, we all agree on the need to improve our business risk management programs, starting with agri-stability. BRM is a top priority for me and for our government, and once again, I'd like to thank the committee for its recommendations. Together with the provincial territorial ministers, we are working to improve the programs and provide a national consensus where provinces pay their share and programs are fair for different sectors. Tomorrow, we will continue our discussions on options for improvements to BRM programs for the short and long term. Thanks to the hard work of farmers, our agri-food exports are up more than 8% compared to the same time last year. That includes significant increases of almost 80% in exports of Canadian lentils, pork, and canola seed. I'm pleased to inform the committee that we are on the course to the new record for exports this year and in good shape to reach our government's ambitious goal of $75 billion in agri-food exports by 2025. D'un autre côté, nous savons à quel point notre
On the other hand, we know the extent to which our supply management system is important for the vitality of our family farms in our rural regions, and this is why we are maintaining our support to supply management producers and honoring our pledge to compensate completely and fairly our dairy, poultry, and egg producers for any repercussions resulting from trade agreements. A first payment was made to dairy producers less than 1 year ago for the repercussions from the CETA and the CPTPP. And as I said on October 30th in the House, the second year of compensation payments will be made during this fiscal year, and we'll also be making an announcement for egg producers. And in the process of NAFTA ratification, we continue our discussions with the supply management sectors to remedy any industry repercussions. As to future agreements, both I and the Prime Minister have been very clear. We will offer no new market access for products under supply management in future trade agreements. Mr. Chair, in spite of enormous pressures experienced in the last 8 months, the Canadian agriculture and agribusiness sector continues to demonstrate its strength and resilience, and we are already seeing very positive results. In addition to exports, we've observed strong demand and high prices in a good number of industries this fall, and we are observing record grain production of exceptional quality. Farm cash receipts have increased by 8.4% in the first 3 quarters of 2020, and there's been an increase also in processed foods. I'm looking forward to work with this committee to make sure that agriculture and agribusiness remain at the heart of our economic revival. And I thank you, and I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you very much, Madam Minister, for the opening remarks. And I want to underscore the presence of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Madam Barnes, and also Chris Forbes, our Deputy Minister and Christine Walker, Assistant Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada.
And the first panel for 6 minutes, Monsieur Lehoux, c'est à vous.
Mr. Lehoux, you have the floor. Thank you very much. I want to mention that I'm going to share my time with my colleague, Madame Rhodes. Good afternoon, Madam Minister. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. It really is very much appreciated. The commitment of paying compensation to producers, you've just mentioned it in the conclusions of your remarks. Yes, a commitment of 1.75 million over 3 years, and you had a first commitment in 2019. And now we're almost in December. It's just next week, just a few days left before the end of 2020. What date have you planned for paying this second tranche of compensation that was planned? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lowe. Well, you've summed up the situation very well. We did mention $1.75 million to dairy producers over an 8-year period, and the first payment was made fewer than 12 months ago, and now we're getting ready to pay the second payment during this fiscal year before March 31 of 2021. Thanks for that answer, but according to your answers given in the House of Commons this past week, we were hoping for an announcement before the end of the year, before the end of 2021. Producers have been very patient, especially with the pandemic we're experiencing this year. It's caused a great deal of stress in the agriculture sector, and dairy producers would have liked to hear from you very soon. You're here to talk about estimates. We hope that the payments will be paid. We understand it won't be paid in 2020, not till 2021. But what will be the scope of the compensation you'll be paying for the year ending March 31st? Well, I agree with you. It's been a very tough year for our producers. They have been under a great deal of stress because of the pandemic, and that's why we put in a number of measures in place. If these producers had access to the interest-free loans, some 60,000 of which 20,000 is non-reimbursable. This is like a direct transfer to all producers. Don't forget, they have access to that now. So we'll just have to follow the course of that program. It's been less than 12 months since they've received the first payment, and we're just putting together the last details before we move to the second payment without further delay. We would have liked more specific figures today, but I'll give the floor to my colleague, Madame Rhodes.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today, Minister. Minister, I put a question to the Prime Minister on November 4th about grocery giants gouging suppliers, and the Prime Minister answered, and I quote, that the Federal Competition Bureau, as an independent law enforcement agency, is responsible for enforcing the Competition Act, and we expect that it will. So I'm just wondering if you've followed up with the Competition Bureau as to whether or not they are investigating the grocery giants' practices, as the Prime Minister has indicated.
Thank you. So yes, the Competition Bureau is an independent bureau, but they are there to support us. And actually, we got, a message from the person in charge saying that he would be working with us Okay, sorry. Alors, on a travaillé.
We've been working with the Competition Bureau. It is an independent agency, but they have the knowledge and expertise they're willing to share with us. Tomorrow we have a discussion with the provincial ministers, as you know. And this is a topic that is on the agenda, and I would like to thank Minister Lamontagne from Quebec for taking the leadership with me on this issue. We will be working together to see what might be the best approach. to assist and to protect our producers and processors.
Federal Competition Bureau is federal, not provincial. So I'm guessing what you're going to be speaking to your counterparts about tomorrow amongst the provinces is the grocery code of conduct issue. And I know I've spoken with several of the provinces, and I know that there's an appetite for this, definitely within industry and also against the provinces. So I'm just wondering, will you take the lead with your counterparts to help them develop this and release a code of conduct?
I made sure that it was a topic. Am I on mute? No, okay, sorry. Yes, I made sure that it was a topic on our agenda because it's an important issue, and we have to understand and respect the jurisdiction from the federal government and the provinces. And together we will, I'm really looking forward for us to find or to define a roadmap, a way of collaboration that will be effective for the coming weeks and months. And obviously the code of conduct is one option that will be discussed. And we will take advice from our different officials and other organizations, such as the Competition Bureau, to see, what are the different paths we may follow to find a solution to this situation.
Thank you, Madame Ministre. Thank you, Ms. Rood. And now we'll move to Madame Bessette pour 6 minutes. Allez-y, Madame Bessette.
6 minutes, Madame Bessette. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you very much, Minister Bibeau, for being here with us today. I want to congratulate you for your relentless work during this pandemic. And I'm very pleased to hear from the producers in my region how pleased they are with the response. Earlier, you mentioned this in your remarks, but I would like to talk about protections for our producers, workers. We had a meeting this week in the Eastern Townships, and organizations are satisfied with the work done by the government. So all of these are essential workers. And can you tell us about the measures taken by government to enabling access for temporary workers to protection? Thank you. At the beginning of the pandemic, when we closed the borders, we were all very concerned. We know the extent to which these temporary seasonal workers play such an important role. So along with my colleagues, Minister of Immigration and Labour, we wanted to simplify the process to be able to use, more electronic systems rather than paperwork. We got a great deal of assistance. We were able to welcome 85% of those workers compared to the previous year. Of course, we had a workforce shortage. It was already in existence, but in the circumstances, I'm quite satisfied with the results. The UPA in Quebec was also very satisfied. We would need to ensure the protection of Canadians, so we posed a 14-day mandatory quarantine, but the employers had to be responsible for the cost for the 14 days quarantine. So we put into place more than $50 million. The program's been extended. That's a very significant measure. $30 million also to help producers to put in place certain measures to protect workers. Housing for foreign workers, also PPE, also disinfection stations. So numerous programs of that kind that were put in place. We did the same for producers. Thank you. Access to markets, that's an issue that comes up again and again in the field. It appears that the pandemic exacerbated the disparity between local producers and the large giant producers. What's the government doing right now to foster access to markets for our small producers? And what's your vision for food security and processing for the future? Thank you. Canada is a vast country, a significant agricultural and agribusiness producer. We have the capacity to produce not only for Canadians, but for many other countries, in fact, to nourish the planet in some ways. At the federal level, you know full well that our main responsibilities are around international trade, innovation, and assistance to producers. Then, of course, we have our provincial colleagues whom we assist through federal transfers, assistance through various programs to help local initiatives that are financed at 60% by the federal government. So you have to find the right balance. We want our producers to really take advantage of foreign markets, but COVID has enabled us to identify the fact that our supply chains, both locally and regionally, could be strengthened. And in fact, in the throne speech, that was mentioned. And that's something we want to work on in collaboration with the provinces to be able to strengthen our regional supply chains. Thank you very much. I have a bit more time. Now, assistance to our dairy farmers. In my riding, that is crucial. Can you tell us about the measures taken by the government to help this sector? So in the case of the pandemic, I think the most significant initiative was to increase the capacity for the Dairy Commission's ability to take out loans. It was significant, allowing them to make more purchases for butter, cheese, and to better be able to implement supply management. They have the capacity to adapt to a certain extent the supply and the demand. So that was the sector's request, and we delivered on that. Now, there's also the emergency programs for the business account that's accessible for dairy producers, interest-free loans, 60,000, 20,000 non-reimbursable. So those are the most significant measures during the pandemic. I've 20 seconds left, so I'll give the floor back to the chair. Thank you.
Excusez-moi, j'avais.
I apologize. I had asked everyone to unmute, and then I forgot. Mr. Perron, 6 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Minister. So pleased to have you with us this afternoon. No surprise, I am going to start with compensation. And it's with pleasure, in fact, that I saw your party support the motion adopted early. So no ambiguity on that, but there is ambiguity about dates and deliveries. Following up on my colleague from the BOS, we have the deadline of March 31st. And now, with regard to compensation of dairy farmers, there's an issue here. Do you recall that in 2019, they were given a choice to take the first payment in either 2019 or 2020? And a number of businesses chose 2019, saying, we don't want two payments in 2020. But now it looks like they're going to get two in 2021, if I followed you well. So that's a problem for small producers. Yet for the federal government, there wouldn't be a big impact to trigger that compensation before Christmas. So I don't understand why you cannot make the payments before Christmas. Is there any hope that that could be announced on Monday, for instance? There's always hope, but our commitment is firm, Mr. Perron. We are going to make that second payment to dairy farmers this year. But you understand, if I could announce it now, it would have already been done. We still have a few strings to tie, a few details, and so I will make the announcement at the appropriate time with regard to payments to dairy farmers. Well, for me, this year is 2020, so I'm counting on you to push very hard, and our producers are counting on you as well. Now, with regard to other sectors in the supply management sector, you say, well, there was already a first payment, but eggs, poultry have not got anything. Transformers haven't either. They need a quick announcement because they want modernization plans. They want to implement those plans. What answers do you have for them today? Well, we also committed to giving a clear answer to poultry producers when it comes to compensation for the first two agreements, the one with Europe and the Trans-Pacific. We were to inform them about the scope of compensation and the model for the programs, the type of compensation, and we've committed to do that. Well, I'll repeat my last sentence. For me, this year is 2020, and we have 1 month left to 2020. So you know that you can count on the cooperation of the elected MPs from other parties as well. We are here. Now, question regarding transform processors. Often we hear not just from you, but from other politicians. And when I think of the dairy producers, and we forget about the processors, I have raised the issue of processors, and it was part of the earlier motion. But if you don't hear your name mentioned, you worry because you wonder if the money one might run out before you get some. What do you have to say to these stakeholders? Well, our commitment to transformers is the same as to the producers. We know there have been repercussions since signing the last few free trade agreements. And when you help producers, you help transformers. I'm well aware of the situation, Mr. Perron, and we will honor our pledge with the processors as well. So just recall that this year ends December 31st. I want to move to another issue. You talked about increasing the Dairy Commission's appropriations. I think it's a great way of showing how the different parties can work together to help a sector. Earlier, you mentioned, that what they requested, we delivered on. Well, you know that we tabled C-216 to protect supply management in a permanent way. And in your remarks earlier, you said very clearly, and I thank you very much for doing that, but you said no access to markets. You referred to, future trade agreements. I think the way to, to really make your pledge clear, just in case there's an election next year, just in case your party is replaced in government. This is a wonderful opportunity to ensure those who feed us that they will be protected for all times. You could the Liberal government is still in power. You might even end up seeing your portfolio change. So deadlines are short. And I wonder if you have a firm, positive answer to give me today. I'll take it. But if you don't have one today, I would like you to take this very seriously, because when you say what producers asked us, this bill was supported by all of the producers and the transformers associations. And I'd like to hear you on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Liu. I can tell you're not on mute. No, I haven't spoken. I haven't spoken yet. Now, the bill you've mentioned, I think that it needs to be studied carefully, but our commitment is firm, and we repeat it. We are not going to give away any more market share under any future trade agreement. And you'll take note what we signed with the UK. But we need to study this bill more carefully to make sure there's no collateral impact on other sectors of the economy. So we need to have more discussion on the matter. Thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you, Mr. Perron. Mr. McGregor. Alistair McGregor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for appearing before our committee. I too, I don't want, I mean to flog a dead horse, but I also want to visit the issue on compensation. And I think you've answered about dairy, but for eggs, poultry, and our turkey farmers, they requested an emergency meeting of the Standing Committee back in August. Here we are in November. So I'll give you the opportunity again. Why has it taken so long to get details on compensation for these particular sectors, for eggs and for poultry?
Thank you. So my commitment today that I reiterate is that we will provide an answer to the poultry and egg producers before the end of the year in terms of how much we're going to give them in terms of compensation for CETA and CPTPP and what type of programs will be put in place.
And to be clear, end of year is calendar or is it fiscal?
Well, the government always speak in fiscal years, but
okay, so March 31st
we're working hard on it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so in the limited time I have, I want to move on. I appreciate your acknowledgement of our business risk management study. That study was a very faithful representation of all of the testimony we heard, including the recommendations we heard that we made to you. I saw it today in the news in realagriculture.com. They are reporting that there's still some disagreement on agri-stability. I want to know from you, Minister, if no agreement can be reached with the required number of provinces on moving the reference margin on agri-stability, what steps is your department prepared to take to fix this program on its own? You know, these problems have existed since before COVID. They've been exacerbated by COVID-19. I guess what we want to know is what kind of leadership is the Federal Department of Agriculture prepared to show in fixing this program if you can't reach an agreement by the end of this week?
Well, we will get to the end of the week, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to make significant changes to agri-stability. Obviously, to do that, I need 2/3 of the provinces to agree, to join. And when I say 2/3, it's based on the level of participation of their farmers to the program. And I expect everyone to put their share on the table. And when I say their share, I mean the 60-40 cost share that we always put on the BRM for years before and years to come.
Okay, but if that doesn't happen, what's your fallback plan?
Well, you understand that I don't want to, open my negotiation a day before the negotiation.
Sure, but I mean, we live in a cooperative federal model. But I guess I just want to reiterate, there's a very real sense of frustration out there, and I realize that we do need the provinces to do their fair share. But I just want to reiterate the frustration that we've heard individually and members as the committee. I want to move on to the topic of food security. As you know, the food policy for Canada, one of its stated goals was to address the problem of food insecurity. And I was glad to see that you made mention that one of your priorities is to see that Canadians are fed. However, Minister, I'm sure you're quite well aware that during this pandemic, we've actually seen levels of food insecurity on the rise. And I think with the second wave that trend will continue for some time. How is your department, how much are you willing to adapt the food policy to meet this challenge? What steps are you taking as a minister to address that? Because the trends are very worrisome. For a country that is so rich in agricultural produce, we still have far too much food insecurity, and it's been going on for far too long.
Totally agree with you and acknowledge what you're saying. So this is why we have put in place the emergency fund for the food banks, $200 million. I think it has been distributed in a very efficient way through 5 major partners who have networks all across the country. I've recently announced a little special fund of $2.3 million for the remote communities that were not connected to one of these networks. But I can assure you that we have put a lot of efforts to make sure that we were able to reach the remote and northern and indigenous communities. And we have added a second 100 million tranche. You remember certainly the $50 million to by surplus as well. There was a $25 million to the northern community specifically. Okay. And I would add the waste quickly, the waste food challenge.
And just Thank you, Minister. And just one final question. During the course of our committee, we also had the Canadian Produce Marketing Association. They are still having that demand or ask of having a Perishable Agricultural Commodities Act. That, of course, was a unanimous recommendation of 2 standing committees in the previous Parliament. What are you doing, Minister, to make sure that that becomes a reality here in Canada?
I will admit that I have to work further on this, and I don't have a clear answer for you today, but I'll be pleased to get back to you.
Thank you. Chair, I believe you're on mute.
That mute button, it should be automatic. Thanks. Yeah, so we'll go to the second round. Mr. Steinley will split his time, I believe, with Mr. Shields. So you have the floor, Mr. Steinley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And unfortunately, it's not a lot of time for 2.5 minutes, Madam Minister. So my first question is, you said it now, can egg producers expect compensation on a date before the end of fiscal year, so around that April 1st, 2021?
I'm sorry, the line was cut. You're talking about the dairy farmers?
The egg compensation, poultry and egg, will be before April 1st, 2021.
Our commitment is to make the announcement, to give them the numbers, the amount, and the type of program that will roll out soon after.
Thank you very much. Also, is there an economic impact analysis being done in regards to the clean fuel standards on agriculture producers across the country?
It's the Department of Environment and Climate Change who has the lead on that. We are obviously considering the different economic and environmental impact, looking into putting in place a plan for the relaunch of our economy, and we want this plan to be green, and we want this plan to.
Thank you very much. Just want to make sure that you're there supporting our ag producers. Can we consider you an advocate in championing an exemption from propane and natural gas on farm use from the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act this coming year? Can you talk to your cabinet colleagues to make sure that we can get an exemption for on-farm use of propane and natural gas from the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing this year?
Yes, this is something that is also that we are also discussing with our colleagues of other departments. I understand the issue very well, and we will do the cost-benefit analysis on that.
Thank you very much. You got one question left. Will you be going to the federal provincial meeting with some money in your pocket? Have you got permission from Treasury Board and the Finance Minister to have money on the federal side to change some of the BRM programs when you're meeting with your provincial counterparts tomorrow in the days to come?
Yes.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you for sharing your time. Appreciate it. And for the minister, welcome to the minister, as we have a connection with a documentary called Sherbrooke to the City of Brooks. Some questions in the sense that agriculture producers, are you willing to label them as essential workers?
Well, they are within the framework that we have put in place for COVID and for the pandemic. They are listed, but and then it's up to the provinces to also continue.
When you meet with the provinces, will you push that agenda forward so that they are essential workers?
To my knowledge, most of them, if not all of them, have identified them as essential workers.
Great. When vaccinations come along, that will be a part of that essential workers part as well?
Well, I will let the public health department of the different provinces to make the decisions on their priorities.
But they are essential workers, and you will promote that in the sense of what comes.
Yes, I mean, food
Thank
security.
you. Good.
I can
Great.
promote.
So another one that I would be interested in you working with is the health department is hemp. Canada has got some of the best growing area in the world for hemp, which replaces a lot of different things that you would realize. But hemp is under health and very restricted in the sense of a lot of things. Would you be willing to work with health to get hemp under agriculture?
We are already discussing this about this new sector that is in development with our colleagues of the health department.
Great. So you're lobbying for that to be moved?
Well, it's a work in process.
Yeah, we need it moved into agriculture. It needs to be there. It needs to be out of health. Neonics is a critical chemical that we use in the agricultural sector. And if we're talking about sugar beets, it's critical to the sugar beet industry. And in my riding, the only place left in Canada with a sugar beet industry and manufacturing. Are you supportive of the continuation of the use of that chemical?
I will let the scientific, I would follow the advice of our scientist. I think these are the type of discussions that must be taken very carefully. We want to protect our environment while we make sure that our producers are competitive, but the health of Canadians and the health of everybody who's eating Canadian food is the first priority. I mean, I'm not the one who will make. I will listen to the experts on that. We want to make decisions based on evidence and science.
Thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you, Mr. Shields. And now, Mr. Tim Lewis for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. Appreciate your time and your hard work and your department's hard work. My riding in Kitchener-Conestoga is part of Waterloo Region, which I'm happy to say you've visited in the past, and it's vibrant urban and rural communities. So we're proud of our agriculture sector. We're also proud of our tech sector as well. So one of the things, when I speak to local farmers, they're proud to share with me some of the technologies that they employ, which help to increase productivity, and it's also helping our environment. So it's natural that I'm interested in knowing more about the funding that we've provided as a government for research and innovation. So can you share with us some of those investments in research and innovation?
Yes, with pleasure, because we are investing significantly in research and innovation within our department, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, but also through the Department of Innovation as well. But let's talk about Agri-Science and Agricultural Discovery Science and Innovation Program. These two programs represent an investment of $600 million per year in science and innovation. And we are, on the path. We keep hiring scientists, up to 75 new scientists in emerging field. And the program that I'm very proud of is the Living Labs. So we are putting in place, a new research program that are being done in the field in direct collaboration with the farmers. So we expect that it will, it will be and I can tell you that when I was at the G20, everybody was very excited and interested in knowing more about that. And through the Canadian Agricultural Partnership Agreement with the provinces, we have dedicated $690 million to innovation and science programs over the 5-year period.
Well, that's good news. That's important because we also have a number of universities in our area too, including the University of Guelph and Waterloo and Laurier. So thank you for that. I was hoping to pivot. The COVID pandemic's impacted every aspect of our society, of course, including the farmers, and it's been a very tough year. And mental health is something that comes up a lot. It's important to the health of our farmers. I, and I'm sure my colleagues too, have had some difficult but important conversations. I did with my farmers in my riding in Kitchener-Conestoga. And it's important we have resources to provide for mental health support for those in the agriculture sector. I know that we need to raise awareness, we need to destigmatize these issues and help the people that are suffering silently. So can you share with us some of the measures that our government's taking to address mental health issues in our agriculture sector?
Yes, thank you. You remember that a few years ago, we have announced the transfer to provinces for $5 billion for mental health. And I know one example in Quebec, Minister Lamontagne, maybe a year ago or so, announced I don't remember the exact amount, but a few $100 million for an initiative for farmers. And I was very excited to see that our transfer to the provinces wasn't some of them utilized to offer direct services to farmers. And I hope many other provinces will also do the same, because providing health services is really provincial, but still we are supporting Farm Credit Canada. And they have put in place some resources to support their client and farmers in general. I think it's accessible through their website easily. We have also invested $240 million to develop, expand, and launch a virtual care and mental health tools. So we are doing, obviously, our colleagues at the Public Health Agency are also providing different tools that are available to everyone, including farmers.
Thank you. This is something we're also aware of here. My colleague had mentioned about the food waste, and we're studying processing right now. And I know that there's a food waste reduction challenge. So in the time that I have remaining, I know we have a recent announcement, and maybe you could kind of elaborate on that so I can share it with the people in my riding here in Kitchener-Conestoga.
This is a very exciting program. So $20 million will be distributed through a challenge. We are inviting organizations of different type and partnerships as well to submit their best ideas in terms of business model, how to reduce or redirect food, because it's a very important issue. We are losing for a worth of $50 billion of food in Canada only. So this is something that we have to work on, and it will, provide a better access probably in these communities to the people in need. It's to the benefit of our farmers and processors as well. And it could also have an impact on the environment, reducing the greenhouse gas emission.
Thank you, Madam Minister, and thank you, Mr. Lewis. And now, Mr. McGregor for 2.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair. Minister, what I would like to ask you about is with regards to what the UFCW brought to my attention.
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
Oui, Monsieur Perron, je me
C'est pas grave. Si vous me garantissez que j'ai 2 minutes au complet.
Could you guarantee that I have 2 minutes? I'll let Mr. Gregor go, but two minutes. That was a mistake on my part. I apologize, Mr. McGregor.
Go ahead, Mr. McGregor.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't sure what happened there, but anyways, we'll just go with it. Minister, so my question has to do with UFCW. I brought this question up with CFIA officials during our processing study, and it's with regards to, I think we all acknowledge the central role that labor plays in keeping agriculture and agri-food going. And I know that we have a shortage of labor, but for the workers that are employed and the very real and legitimate concerns they have with their workplaces, I know they submitted 7 core recommendations to your ministry with regards to how they can make their workplaces safer. Some of the recommendations have been taken up quite well, but others are being applied quite haphazardly. And given that we're now in November and we're going through a second wave, can you please explain to the committee how you are going to act upon their recommendations to ensure that there is uniform compliance by employers so that our workers are feeling safe when they go and do this critical work?
Thank you. So there's shared responsibilities between the provinces and between the federal on this issue, of course. You know about the $77.5 million program that we have provided to the processors to help them put the right measures in place to protect their workers. When it comes to CFIA, well, their first responsibility is to ensure that the food is safe for Canadians while protecting their employees, but also collaborating with the businesses and make, trying to support in terms of making sure that the right protocols are applied, while these protocols are put in place by the regional or local public health services. So it's a collaboration, but there so far we can go as the federal government. And if I may, I think it's a matter of language. Were you talking about PACA at your last question that I was not sure?
I was, yes, for the Canadian Produce Marketing Association. That's been a long-standing ask. And my question to you was, how are you going to advocate for the establishment of PACA, given it was a unanimous recommendation of 2 standing committees? It's been quite some time since then.
Okay, so sorry, I know a bit about this issue, and it was just I'm not using the translation, so I'm doing my best. Yes, this is something that we are following up on, but I think that the Safe Food for Canadian regulation is already a good step in the right direction to support them. Giving us more capacity and the right measures to make sure that the producers that enter into Canada do have apply the same rules. But I know there's a difference between it's a dispute resolution program that is also included in this regulation, and well, I don't actually. I cannot pretend I have a clear answer. I don't have a clear answer, but this is something that we keep working on. And maybe my deputy minister might be will probably be a bit more technically informed on this issue, and you might want to ask him the question later.
Thank you, Madame Minister. Thank you, Madame Minister. Thank you. Maintenant, Monsieur Perron, mes excuses, vous avez votre plan 2 minutes.
Now, Mr. Perron, your turn. No problem, as long as I get my time. Madam Minister, just want to end our previous, you said that you were going to be examining more closely this program. For that to be done, it has to come to committee for second reading. That was just opening and closing a parenthesis. You did talk about your meeting with the provincial premiers. It's happening tomorrow, and I'm very pleased to hear, although I did have advance notice that the Quebec might go ahead with you on the code of conduct, and that might respond positively to what the sector wants. And that is our reading, and I'm counting on you. Now, for agri-stability, during the meeting with the provincial premiers, UPA has voiced its concern that you do not succeed in reaching an agreement with all the other provinces. And there's a consensus on that in Quebec. The president of UPA even formulated an assumption that you might be able to do what you've done during COVID, which is to go ahead with your portion without necessarily, stepping on other jurisdictions' competencies. Could that be a way forward in the event you could not reach an agreement? Well, the meeting will happen tomorrow. So I don't, it's not bad faith on my part, but I don't want to speak, in the public arena before the meeting, because I do have hope that we will achieve an agreement on that issue of agri-stability tomorrow. I was, expecting that answer. Now, you talked also about the emergency program for processors. We have a lot of small processors who contact us to say that funds are running out. Some have started to invest. I'm thinking of a little pork slaughterhouse nearby where I am. Are you intending to increase the funds soon? Because it's very necessary. Yes. That program was very popular. We were able to assist more than 550 small business, of which 50 were in Quebec. And I'm sure that you'll share that information as soon as it's out with those people in your region. It is something under consideration at the time, the extent to which we'd be able to extend or increase that program. But I have no announcement to make for you today. Thank you.
Leanne Rood for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Ms. Rood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be splitting my time with Mr. Steinley. Minister, we've heard from many stakeholders that the current suite of BRM program is not working. And I'm just wondering if you've heard from the provinces, if they've come up with a different funding solution, perhaps where the federal government could put in a little more money right now, considering COVID and considering that we've hardly seen any money, new money, go into agriculture to support producers and farmers. Would you commit to working with the provinces to find a way to make some of these changes happen if they aren't able to put in their 40% share?
Sorry. Well, when you say that there's not significant money that has been going to agriculture, I don't agree. I think we've put quite a bit in agriculture, and I really look forward tomorrow to see what the provinces, what consensus we will find. The federal has been quite generous in terms of transfer to the provinces. We've put more, around 82 cents for every dollar in terms of support to the different sectors and to the Canadians through the pandemic. And when we talk about business risk management, for years, it's been a fair cost sharing of 60-40, and this should continue this way.
Minister, last spring, when the pandemic hit, we saw delays in getting seasonal agriculture workers and temporary foreign workers onto farms. We saw some drastic conditions that some of the workers from the greenhouses down in the Leamington area were put into. And I'm wondering if you have a plan to work with Health Canada or with your colleagues at ESTC, so that when the workers start arriving in the new year, is there a plan in place to make sure that they can get to work right away, that we won't lose food production, and we won't have farmers go through the catastrophic events of losing their entire crops like we saw last spring? Because as you know, food security is a big issue, and we need to ensure we have food security. We need to ensure our farmers have the workers that they need to come on time. So will you commit to working with them to ensure that they can get to work right away?
Well, I'm working with them for a while, and this is why we have been able to bring 85% of the workers this summer, even if the borders were closed, and we have put in place important support, starting with the $50 million for the isolation period and the $35 million for the retrofits from the employers. And obviously, we are learning from this experience, and we are doing everything to make sure that the arrival of the workers for the next season will go smoothly.
You want to go?
Thank you, Madam Minister. Quick question. Have the provinces put forward through their agriculture ministers any constructive ideas of how cost sharing can happen where we can increase our coverage in the BRM suite of programs?
Well, tomorrow it's going to be the 21st meeting I have with my provincial and territorial counterparts. We've been discussing business risk management almost every meeting. I mean, we are sharing our views, our best ideas. Our officials are working hard as well and we have all worked hard to analyze the strengths and the weaknesses of these programs to make sure that the decision we would take would be in the best interest of our farmers.
I know that we're talking about agriculture, and one thing that I've heard time and again is concerns around the clean fuel standard is land management, and the fact that the federal government is going to get into the area of land management when it comes to agriculture producers. Please don't say it's part of the environment bills and regulations, because it does affect producers across the country. Have you had any conversations about the regulations around the clean fuel standards and hopefully removing any reference to land management in those regulations?
Yes, I'm having conversation on this topic to make sure that it will, in the same time that it ensure that our Canadian agriculture is sustainable, that it won't have any not desirable impact on our producers. And this is something that we are following closely.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. I think it's fair to say
Mr.
that no one is fully prepared for COVID-19. Have you guys had conversations around the African swine fever in regards to how it affects Canadian hogs?
Mr. Steinley, sorry, we're out of time, Mr. Steinley. Okay. And now Mr. Blois for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Blois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. It's great to see you back at committee, and just want to say thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of our producers across the country. If you'll indulge me, I just want to opine on some of the things that I've heard quickly before I get into some of the questions. Of course, our members of this committee, some have expressed their anxious desire to want to know when compensation could be forthcoming. I would encourage you to make sure that you make that announcement to producers, not to us here on the committee. Obviously, Mr. Parent talked about the fiscal year. The fiscal year goes all the way till March, so I know that you'll be working hard, but we've promised to do this within the fiscal year, and I want to remind Mr. Parent on that. And the last thing that I thought was very interesting in your last line of questioning is we just tabled a report to you that was unanimously approved by all committee members, and Ms. Rood and Mr. Steinley were both talking about increasing the 60-40 federal and provincial cost share, which was actually a report recommendation that we keep that in there. So I found that a little bit interesting, but I want to move on to our questions. Kentville Research Station in my riding of Kings Hants is extremely important. It is home to one of the best apple biodiversity collections in the world, provides great research. You've had the chance to be there, I think, in 2019. Can you speak to the importance of research centers and the innovation work to make sure that our producers have basically the top ability to provide products that the world wants?
Yes, thank you. In my answers to Mr. Lewis a bit earlier, I had the opportunity to talk about all the investment we make in science and innovation as well, but how we're very proud of our research center, and this is why we continue to invest in them, and we have even reopened a few of them. And I mean, I think these research centers are also a great part of the good reputation Canada has internationally. We have the reputation of providing very high quality food, and we are really, how should I say, committed to continue investing in making sure that our farmers have, for example, new crops or new technologies that will help them be more resilient facing climate change. So this is something we really believe in and that we continue to invest in.
Thank you, Minister. African swine flu, or African swine fever, I should say, is a top of mind priority for pork producers. I had a recent Nova Scotia Agriculture Roundtable in my riding. You had the chance to participate and call in, and this was one of the topics that came up in the pork and pork context. Can you speak a little bit about the work that our government's doing? A lot of producers talked about the important research and protection that's happening in that domain.
Yes, and actually this is a very, very important and priority for me. We are following this file extremely closely, working with the provinces, working with the industry, and really doing everything we can to first prevent the disease from entering the country, and second, be ready if it comes, to protect our farmers, protect our industry. We are negotiating zoning agreements with, actually, we have concluded an agreement with the EU and United States. We're continuing this work. We have recently announced the promotion office for the pork sector, so they have more resources to invest from their part as well, to do their part in terms of protection and getting ready for that.
Je suis surprise que personne ne l'ait encore demandé.
I'm surprised that nobody has wanted to amend this, but you will be meeting with your provincial territorial counterparts. So I don't want to put you in a bad position, but would you be able to describe in general some of the topics for discussion and how the first meeting unfolded? Thank you, Mr. Boyce, for your efforts to speak in French. Thank you. Tomorrow will be the 21st meeting with my provincial and territorial counterparts. And among the priority topics is the workforce shortage, of course, the African swine fever, and preparations for the next Canada agricultural partnership. There's still 2 years of a 5-year cycle left, but we want to talk about it already now. And then there's business risk management, short-term changes, hopefully for agri-stability, and maybe more in-depth changes and long-term changes for the long term. Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Boyce. Thank you, Madam Minister, for having taken the time. It's been very informative for all colleagues. Thank you once again. And we in our committee are going to continue with your staff. Thank you all. Thank you.
Now we'll continue with our the second round or the second panel, and we'll start with Mr. Martin Shields for 6 minutes. You have the floor, Mr. Shields.
I'm up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have CFI staff with us as well.
We do, yes.
Right.
Yes.
My questioning would go around to change of regulations to do with traceability of animals. This had been attempted to be started to enforced. It would be fairs and rodeos and agricultural events, that there was a significant change that would be under CFIA's direction and inspection. Are you familiar with this? That's going to be in effect in 2021, I believe.
I'm familiar with the regulations, yes, but there's nothing changing on traceability in 2021. So we've been working with the sector for quite a few years on the next round of changes, and we're not even at the first stage of consultation on the next regulation. So I think the most that would happen is that we'd be consulting in 2021.
Well, that's great to hear, the consulting, in a sense. As I've heard from agricultural Alberta organizations, rodeos, events, the amount of information that I would have seen in the past of traceability, it's been tough this year as our rodeos and events, agricultural fairs have been canceled because of COVID. But when I look at the Calgary Stampede, for example, and the amount of work it would do with what I saw with the regulations, as a massive organization, they might be able to handle that. But when I move out to many of our community events, rodeos, even winter events where they bring reindeer and other animals out, I've been told that they will be done. They don't have the manpower. These are all run by volunteers. Mm-hmm. They're not professionals. So there is great anxiety out there that I'm hearing from communities that do a lot of events with animals in them. Rodeos would be number one. And some people think Calgary Stampede's the only rodeo. I probably have 50 to 60 in my riding, 3 or 4 on the same weekend. But these are all run by community organizations and volunteers. So as the regulations, I saw them, these people say we're done. We can't do it because we're volunteers. So
happy to keep working with the stakeholders on these regulations. Obviously, they have to make sense for industry. The reason traceability is important, though, is to try to make sure that we protect the health of our Canadian beef herd and dairy herd on the cattle side. So, that's sort of the balance. But there's nothing. I don't foresee any path where there would be regulatory changes coming in on traceability next year. But so we can keep talking with the sector. That is the plan.
And the sector's
and maybe
ahead.
I just add there that we're hoping that with technology, a lot of this is going to get easier for small producers, small organizations to be able to report and get us the information we need.
And I understand traceability. I have the biggest feedlots in the country in my riding. We're talking 50, 60,000 head. I understand traceability. The industry understands traceability, from the cow-calf operator to the packing plant. We understand why that's important and why it's needed. But to put this back on volunteers, and I hope you listen and you consult with the small communities. We have rodeos where there are no communities. There's a few volunteers in that area. We've got Pollockville outside where there's nobody there other than a huge arena. And volunteers come on, and thousands of people show up for the world's biggest bronc riding competition. But they're volunteers. So when you're talking about technology and what I've seen in the regulations at this point, I would understand why they're done. They can't do that with volunteers. So traceability in the industry, I understand. But in community fairs, I think when you're talking about the chickens and the roosters and the geese and the donkeys and the reindeer that show up in my winter one, I think I hope you get that back from them, because this is just not viable. It's not viable. I understand in the industry traceability. Trust me.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure
I went through 16 in my riding. I understand it well and know it well, and understand what happened to a lot of genetic herds that have been destroyed in my riding. I understand traceability. And I think you figured out how to do it better than you did then. So
yeah, I'll make sure we consult with those small fairs. I think there's a few organizations, associations of them as well. So we'll make sure we reach out.
Yeah, but understand that from what I saw of the regulations before, this won't work. You will kill small communities, industries. You'll kill a lot of organizations that depend on these fairs, and they're countrywide. So understanding traceability, but killing communities through traceability with volunteers just will not work. So hopefully listen, but the regulations I've seen to this point and what you attempted to enforce back, I remember in Ontario with small fairs and stuff, this isn't the industry we're talking about. The industry is the big guys in mine with the biggest meat packing plant in Canada. We understand that industry. Community fairs, that's a different story, and that's not the industry I think you should be involved in the sense of that traceability. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're working on other things as well. Anything else that, in the sense of the cattle industry and traceability, you would like to share with me at this point?
No, on trace, that's what we're at now, is moving to consultation on those regs.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll turn my time to Mr. Stanley if there's anything less.
Do I have any time left? Mr. Chair, do I have time left, or is... You're on mute, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, no, there's no time left. Sorry, Mr. Stanley. And we'll move on to Mr. Drouin for 6 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Drouin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my questions would be addressed to CFIA to start off. I'm just wondering if you could just give us a little bit of an update as to some of the experiences that CFIA has gone through over the last 6-7 months, and the collaboration between the provinces in terms of inspectors. And as if you've been paying attention to our committee, which I'm sure you are every day, we are undertaking a study on processing and potentially reinforcing local processing capacity. And I was curious just to find out some of the issues that CFI has noticed during COVID-19, and if you would have any thoughts to share with us right now.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So we have worked really closely with, I'd say, industry and the provinces over the last 6 months to make sure that those key roles that the agency plays in, especially the meat slaughter plants, can be actually fulfilled. Initially, we were concerned, our top priority is making sure our inspectors are protected and taken care of. But at the same time, we had to be there for the industry too, as they had their own issues. They would want to come back and put on extra shifts to try to clear some backlog. So we were there to help them. The government made an investment in the agency of $20 million, and we were able to use that to go out and hire some surge capacity. So former inspectors who retired, some people that we could bring on in short term to really help us work with the sector to make sure that the processing could continue. So that was a really big success. I would say with the provinces of note is they have provincial inspection regimes as well. And so we were cross-utilizing each other's resources in Ontario, Alberta, BC, and I think Manitoba as well. So we were able to work together, train each other so that we could help out on both sides, and that just helped us make sure we were there for the sector.
And would you say that one of the potential barriers or risk would be access to labor? And I'm sure that $20 million you've just mentioned, that the surge, you had to rehire some of the folks who were planning retirement and come back. But that collaboration with provinces and access to labor, is that a risk that CFI is looking at?
We're always trying to make sure we have the capacity we need, especially in terms of veterinarians. Those are really key resources that we need access to, and so we're working hard to make sure we can keep a good supply of the key scientists and inspectors that we need in the plants.
Okay, thank you. I'll move my questions to Mr. Forbes, and thank you, and it's great to see you again in front of our committee virtually. I have some questions with regards to trade, and I had heard some explanation. Normally, when trade gets going, normally countries will look at, well, let's look at all the tariffs each countries have, and then negotiation starts. And is that is my understanding correct of this? Depending on what each country's objectives in terms of what they want to try and achieve in terms of trade negotiations?
Certainly, we would look, thank you, Mr. Duran, for the question. We would look certainly at what are the opportunities from our end in terms of what are the opportunities in the partner, and I think they would do the same with us, and we would also look at the areas that we would like to protect and maybe not provide access to. So that's where it starts, and these can be tariffs, tariff rate quotas, tariff-free quota access in certain products, and that's the way we would start from developing a mandate.
Yeah, and so hypothetically, when each country looks at one another and trying to gain access to potential markets, regardless of status quo or their own laws, based on the tariffs that they have, obviously, once these negotiations are over, then you need enabling legislation to change those tariffs once that agreement is brought back to the country, and then Parliament would vote on it. That would be the enabling legislation that would be presented to Parliament, and we reduce those tariffs. Correct?
We would have enabling legislation to put in place the agreement. Some of the changes would be, there could be legislative, regulatory changes. Some of them could be policy changes. It will depend on exactly what's being done. But, grosso modo, that's the approach. We'd come back with an agreement, which would have to be ratified, and then there would be a series of changes, which again could be legislative, regulatory, or potentially even just policy changes, depending on the nature of those changes.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say that regardless of the country's laws that they have adopted based on targeted towards trades, those can be changed by any future governments, depending on their own trade objectives.
Certainly, I don't want to predict the future, but obviously anytime we enter into an agreement, if that requires modification, you would have seen that certainly with the recent CUSMA signing as well. I mean, there was a ratification process, and then there are subsequent changes that have to get made, and we go through that process. Yes.
That's great. Thank you. I think I've got 3 seconds, so thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forbes. Thank you, Monsieur Drouin. Et maintenant, Monsieur Perron pour 6 minutes. Allez-y.
6 minutes, Mr. Perron. Thank you very much. And thank you to our witness. We are really getting to know each other, I think. Mr. Forbes, I would like to follow up on what my colleague, Mr. Drouin, was asking you about. All governments can change their laws deep down. It doesn't mean, that, if governments, don't do that, we wouldn't move forward. So it's important to keep that in mind. Mr. Forbes, what would the impacts be for you in the department? And I'm speaking about compensations. We heard from the minister earlier about compensation amounts, which I believe you're familiar with all of the figures, which we do not have. But what would be the impact for the department to pay that compensation before December 31st as opposed to March 31st? If you'll allow me, I could speak about compensation just like last year for the dairy sector. Yes, for the supply management sector. Well, if we're talking about payments for direct payments to producers, the process that we followed last year was that they be delivered by the Canadian Dairy Commission, and I'm sure you know that. And it takes time to organize that. Back then, we had to put in place a delivery system. We're talking about, electronic systems. So you need the details for each producer, their quota. You need to have that data in hand. You need to talk to the provincial marketing boards to ensure that we have the right information. We also need to test the systems to make sure they work. And lastly, we do also have to ensure that producers are in a position to receive a payment either by check or maybe a direct deposit in their bank account. So there are many different steps that need to be followed. Thank you for that answer. Thank you very much. But if I've understood you, you've mentioned that there was a first step done last year, and therefore this year it could be a lot faster. There shouldn't be a time problem. My question was more about the financial impacts for your department, because after all, it's in the same fiscal year for Canadian government. Just a few months might not make a big difference. But the small businesses, take a dairy producer with 40 heads of cows. I mean, give good thought to payments in 2019. These are people who are managing small businesses. They need to be able to predict. They have, costs they're trying to manage. And just like every good citizen, they're also taking into account, their tax. They're trying to manage their income tax, their RSPs, and so forth. So those who had a payment in 2019 would make a big difference if they're only going to get the second payment in 2021, because unless the government has the intention to extend them over time, although I doubt that. I didn't see that in the government's intentions. Now, for your department, what would be the impact of paying, the financial impact of paying prior to December 31st as opposed to prior to March 31st? If I, put aside all the administrative issues, and I think of the technical issues. For me, it's there's no difference. April, May, June. I mean, December right through to March is the fiscal year. It's the budget year. Like, today we'd ask for the money from Parliament. Well, that was, the answer I was expecting, but so there would be no obstacle, no major obstacle. Now, for the other supply management sectors, thinking of Turkey, I mean, there's a lot more imports now. They really need to have to plan ahead. Now, for your department, there's a sum of money that's earmarked for those organizations, and I expect you've already created the programs. You already have a lot of the work done. When you create new programs, and there were requests from other supply management sectors, SM4 as we call them, yes, you have to create new programs. They're investment programs. So you need the terms and you need the conditions. It takes time to create the programs. And the same for the producers, because we don't know what their deadlines are for their planning. So, you want to do this kind of thing over several years. And the same then for the processors? Thank you, Mr. Perron. Unfortunately, no more time. Mr. McGregor, 6 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair. Maybe, Mr. Forbes, I'll just sort of continue along the same line of questioning on the compensation. Can you just let the committee know, out of the funds that were previously approved by Parliament for compensation, roughly how much do we have left to work with?
So the government announced a payment over 8 years, as the minister said, 1.7 billion. We've got 345 million that was paid out. At this stage, I mean, it was a statutory payment. We do not have anything. We have to have that money allocated to our budget. Now, if it's a statutory payment, that can happen, more or less at any time. We'll have another supplementary estimates C if we had voted estimates for some reason. So, the remainder of those funds are to be, we'll have to get those allocated by the government to our department.
And you did, in response to Monsieur Perron, you did talk about, some of the technical details that are required, getting payment information from individual producers, an assessment of what their quota is. Is there anything else that's still sort of holding the department back? I mean, are you still doing sort of an analysis of what the impacts are on the various sectors of supply management? Are you still working out the full impacts? I guess that's the main question I have for you.
Our work with the sector, as you'll recall, a couple of years ago, we did some working groups, one with the dairy sector and one with the poultry and egg sector. And I think we finished that work. So I wouldn't say there's a lot to do there. Obviously, we do evaluate the trade agreements as they come into force to see how it's going. But we're not doing. There's not a lot of additional questions that we're asking ourselves beyond watching the implementation, I would say.
Great. I was just going over, so, in the main estimates when they were initially tabled, we had just over $2.5 billion for the department, and then with the supplementary estimates climbed to almost $3 billion. Understandable given the stress that we have all seen from COVID-19. However, as legislators, we do have an important role to play, both in providing or authorizing the funds for the executive to spend. Between now and the end of this fiscal year, when we reach the end of 2021, what kind of projections is the department making? Do you foresee the need for additional funds to make it through to this fiscal year, given how severe the second wave is showing itself to be?
It's a tough question to answer. I guess what I would say is a couple of things. I mean, I think the government has certainly shown us, I think, over the 6 months, a willingness to, if there's demonstrated need to give us additional funds if, or create new programs or build on existing programs. And I think the minister made some reference to that in her remarks. So I think it will depend a little bit on how things evolve. Certainly, we're keeping a close eye, as you suggested, on how the virus is kind of moving along, because it is quite worrying right now in terms of where it's at across the country. But we'll keep an eye on that and certainly work with colleagues and with the minister if we feel there's more funds that need to go out to seek those.
Thank you. And Mr. Forbes, you may recall from the first hour in committee, the minister said she might turn it over to you for a few more technical details on PACA. Yeah. Is there anything you can inform the committee on? I mean, this is I've sent a letter to the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, about this issue, and of course it has been a recommendation in a previous Parliament. But I mean, do you, in your conversations with other deputy ministers, with other departments, is this something that the federal government might be working on or interested in? Has there been any analysis to lay the groundwork for a possible decision by the ministers themselves?
So we've discussed this, I've been in the department for close to 6 years now, for the better part of 6 years, and we've been discussing this, I think, on and off in my time. And I think there's been a lot of work with the horticulture sector, with our partners in what is now Innovation, Science and Economic Development, who are responsible for the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. We've looked at options. We've talked to the sector, I would say, regularly. I mean, thus far, and I think there's been communication to this effect. I think the government's view has been that, the evidence is not there that this is a widespread problem. It's an issue that we think can be dealt with under the Safe Food for Canadians Act. That said, we're certainly constantly and regularly engaged with the sector, and we're always open to discussing solutions to problems and in this and other issues if there's further evidence that the sector has to bring to bear. We're always open.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. And then maybe as my final question, I've had some communication from the Canadian Craft Brewers Association, and they're such an important part of many small communities. Many small communities take such pride in the local craft beers that we produce, and of course they're an important destination for many of our grain producers. They have reported that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of the beer that was shipped out to restaurants spoiled. Because restaurants had to close down. They have asked for some relief on the excise tax, and I know that's not specifically your department, but can you report on any communication that you've received from them and anything that your department might be doing in conjunction with Finance Canada?
Unfortunately, Mr. McGregor, we're past the time. I was hoping you could squeeze it in, but
so be it.
Yeah, we'll have to move on. Perhaps you'll have a chance to answer to. So, Monsieur Lehoux, pour 5 minutes. Allez-y, Monsieur Lehoux.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Forbes. Thank you for being here today. Question in regard to the $500 million to the Canadian Dairy Commission increased by some amount of money. Could you if not today, provide the committee more information about the $500 million and how much is committed? And when do you think there's going to be anything left before March 31st? My understanding, Monsieur Lehoux, there's been no reaction on the part of the Commission. They don't foresee any difficulty with the threshold they've been given. I believe the situation was difficult in spring, summer, but the system has since stabilized, so I don't really have any concerns. I'm quite sure that if there are problems, we would hear very quickly. Now, for the other sectors, the SM4, as you called it, there are agreements with producers and departments with regard to tax credit. I understand they're not necessarily checks that you need to give producers, but for those investments, be it the Treasury Board or finance, have there been talks underway with those two entities, be it Treasury Board or Department of Finance? Because I expect they do have a role to play. Yes, well, it depends on the program format. Is it going to be an investment program to share costs with businesses? So that could be delivered by us. So if it is a tax credit, it's going to be the Department of Finance that would be responsible. But clearly, we have had talks. We've been talking for several months on all of the potential programs for the sector. And I understand, Mr. Forbes, that if Madam Minister is ready to announce something, you would be ready. Your calculations are done. You have your ties with Department of Finance. Yes, and we talk a lot. I talk a lot with my minister. So, with regard to the operations budget, we talk about 24% reduction compared to 2019, 2020. Now, these reductions, what sectors is that going to affect? There's been a cut in. Let me begin. And if I make a mistake, I'll ask Christine Walker to add or correct. So last year, we had supplementary amounts in our budget, 2019, 2020, which of course increased our capital budget, some $10 million. Because we have research centers where we've had requests and so forth. Now this year, if we have any additional money, we're going to spend it on the COVID-19 related grants. So this year, we're directing money to other priorities. So is there any link between the money going to CFIA for all of the border checks? I mean, if we want to respect our agreements with producers in these new agreements, there has to be reciprocity standards. We have to watch very carefully what's going on at the borders. The budgets are entirely separated. The agency and Ms. Barnes can talk about this more, but the budgets are entirely separate. Our budget really is earmarked for research centers. So the reduction doesn't mean that there is a drop in investment in research centers. We heard from witnesses in recent months that it was important to really invest in agricultural research. We are in entire agreement. It is a priority to uphold our capacity in research in terms of our human resources, our scientists, and also fixed costs. So for food inspection, do we need any additional budgets to be able to ensure we're doing the job, especially at the USA-Canada border? We need to work with all stakeholders. We need to be very targeted in our border activities. That's the objective, and it will really strengthen all our systems. Thank you very much. And now, Cody Blois, 5 minutes.
I'd like to start by talking about the health of animals regulations. And of course, this was legislation that we introduced as a government in 2020. As it relates to the Maritimes and to my community specifically in Nova Scotia, one of the challenges that have arisen is the fact that in our dairy industry, we have a number of bob calves, male calves that really don't have any benefit on a dairy farm. And we don't have a whole lot of processing capability. That's one thing that, of course, we'll hear during the study that we're taking on. But a lot of these bob calves are transported to Quebec, Saint-Hyacinthe, Quebec. They have to go a long distance. The new provisions that came under the regulations are starting to involve and basically create challenges for some of our producers. I'm just wondering maybe whether it's Ms. Barnes or Mr. Forbes, if this particular issue in the Maritimes is on your radar and if it's been discussed before.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can take that one. So yes, it is very much on our radar screen. When the new humane transportation regulations came into force, it was clear there were some issues depending on the sector and depending on the place in the country. So what we've done is for the first 2 years, we're focusing on compliance promotion in relation to those feed, water, and rest intervals that have to be respected. And we've also set up a series of working groups with the targeted sectors. And so the issue you brought up, I know well, we are trying to find a solution. And so, yes, it's definitely something we're working on.
Okay, well, I'm certainly glad to hear that, because that's something that has been coming up over and over, of course, in Nova Scotia, and it has cascading impacts in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island as well. I want to talk about, I'll take you back to the 2018 Fall Economic Statement. My predecessor at the time, Scott Bryson, was the president of the Treasury Board. At that time, we had announced a series of regulatory reviews and a series of different iterations. Of course, agriculture was featured prominently in that, and I know it has some involvement between CFIA and the Department of Agriculture. Can you speak to how some of those processes are unfolding? Because when I look at the deficit that we have right now, and we look at ways to drive economy and be able to help make producers' life easier in terms of growing employment and opportunities, those seem like key measures. Can someone speak to those and where we're at broadly?
Sure. So, yes, there was a very extensive review done for agriculture and aquaculture, the two together. And so it included not just CFIA and Department of Agriculture, but also Health Canada, PHAC, and also DFO, obviously, given the aquaculture. And so we set up something like over 30 initiatives that we wanted to move forward with that lens of maintaining safety, but also promoting competitiveness and innovation. I think it's fair to say with COVID, the regulatory changes, the pure changes in the law that we had wanted to do have slowed down a little bit, but they, we're gradually getting back on track. So for instance, just the past week, we were able to publish finally our fertilizer regulations, which were one of the initiatives in that roadmap. So we are now getting back into those. A number of other issues we were able to keep working on. They were conversations with the sector on plant breeding innovation and how we can structure that. These things have kept going during COVID. So we're preparing now for a public report that will be coming out in the coming months on where we're at with the initiatives that were in that plan.
Okay, thank you very much. My last question would be probably directed more to Mr. Forbes. Of course, we've had lots of conversation about supply management compensation that varies depending on the commodity group within the SM5. Agriculture represents about 10% of the GHG emissions. And I say that on record, not trying to be despairing to the industry at all, but of course our government is focused on efficiencies and reducing emissions. Obviously, I think the compensation or the mitigation efforts have to go without strings, but is the department exploring what other ways we can incentivize producers to spend the money that they would be receiving to help benefit certain outcomes that the government feels are important?
Well, certainly when it comes to direct payments to producers, I mean, in terms of those would go without strings, to be clear, as the payments did last year and the beginning of this current year. We can certainly, with investment programs, not necessarily the compensation package, but through other programming. Could it be matching investment? Could it be collaborative work with the provinces in terms of adoption of technology or beneficial management practices? We do have lots of tools that we can use to incent sustainable behavior, which the sector, as you would well know, is already very well down the path of sustainable practices and does a fantastic job, I think, and we recognize that. And I'd maybe just say that our research obviously focuses a lot on what additional learnings and tools we can provide to producers to help them.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Et maintenant, Monsieur Perron, 2 minutes et demie. Allez-y.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Forbes, I think this was touched on earlier regarding the emergency plan for the small producers. I addressed this earlier with the Minister. You mentioned that if there were to be any new monies, it would be to meet demands that had not been satisfied during the first cycle. Did I understand that correctly? Actually, my answer was more if there is, any increased pressure or increased emergency, we could examine some options either internally or with new funds to address emergencies. But that's more general. But if we have specific instances of businesses that applied for programs where there was, two parts, there was the first part more for all businesses, and then the second part might, be, there's probably probability that it would be covered, no? Well, I think the minister said she is examining whether there are any options for supplementary funds. And I have to say, we're working very closely with our provincial counterparts. We have some 200 million almost that's shared with them, federal funds that are shared through Canadian partnerships, which can be used. We've seen this in a few provinces, and this to address COVID emergencies. Do you have any indications internally on the Co-op Fédéré plans that are expiring December 31st? Are you going to refer me to Department of Finance? Sorry. Can you name the program? The Deferred Taxation Program for the Cooperatives. Then that would be my colleagues at Finance. Ms. Barnes, one of the producers' concerns in supply management who've seen some of their markets, go to foreign markets is, what preparation are you doing to make sure there are equivalent standards to help our local producers at this time? You're on mute, sorry. Well, the legislation requirements have the same standard for imported products and those produced here in Canada. So that's the basis of the conversation with industry, both here and abroad. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Thank you, Mr. Perron.
For 2.5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. McGregor.
Thank you so much, Chair. Mr. Forbes, maybe I'll continue the question that I tried to ask you last time. It was just with the Canadian craft brewers. A lot of them have seen their products spoil because of restaurants closing. Are you aware of some of the asks that they've made? Like they've asked for some assistance with the Excise Tax Act. And I know that's not exactly your department, but are you aware of any compensation that they've requested? And are you working with your counterparts at Finance Canada to try and address the concerns that they have?
So I was reflecting in the time between, and we've not heard about that, Mr. McGregor. I'd be really happy just to say if you want to direct them to engage with us. I mean, the excise tax, as you say, is not our responsibility, but we're happy to talk to them about the situation and if there are things that we can do to assist.
Okay, and then I guess just maybe in the remaining time I have, in the current processing study that we're doing as a committee, we've had a few references to the Local Food Infrastructure Fund. Can you just give us a quick update as to the status of the fund and, given its extreme popularity, how is the department measuring success with how those funds have rolled out, and are there plans to maybe continue it on into the future or so on? Anything that you can inform the committee on the status of that fund?
Well, I'd say that we are about a year and a half into or less even into the fund being launched, so it's probably a bit early to declare success or any outcome other than it's obviously been quite popular, I would say, and I think we see it as a very strong program to build local food systems. And so certainly in the sort of approach to the food policy, the priorities of the food policy that I think the minister talked about a bit, I think, strong local food systems are a critical part of that. And so certainly, I think we keep in mind, we'll see how this program goes over the next couple of years, but we'll certainly look to see what we learn from that and how we can, if we need to extend it or increase it or do something different, is certainly the kind of thinking we'll do over the coming years.
And that sort of subsequent review, do you expect that to happen sort of in the next fiscal year?
Well, our initial funding was over a 5-year period, and it was launched last year. So I'd say we still have a bit more time. I know, obviously, with COVID, we've had some changes a little bit to our funding and how it's been dispersed, but I wouldn't expect to necessarily be completed all that review in the next year. But I mean, we'll see how demands go and what we see coming out of the program.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Thank you, Mr. McGregor. And now, Ms. Rood, for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Ms. Rood.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be splitting my time with Mr. Steinle. I think it's fair to say that no one was fully prepared for COVID-19 pandemic, and now we're hearing potential of the danger from the African swine fever to Canadian hogs. So just wondering what the department is doing to prevent it from coming to Canada, and if it does come to Canada, what is the department's plan for addressing African swine fever?
I mean, I think what I would suggest, I don't know, Colleen, if you'd like to talk a bit about the prevention efforts with CFI and CBSA, and if that's okay, Ms. Rood, I'll then answer about what we would do when well, we can kind of split it. So I'll let Colleen start.
I'll start. It's a very much shared file. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So on the prevention side, we focused on a few key things. Number one is biosecurity. So we need to make sure that producers are doing everything they can, have all the tools they need, all the guides they need to make sure that we have a good line of defense there. We're also, we've taken action at the border. We have new dogs. When people were traveling, they were really checking on all the flights. Now they're focused more on the postal stream to make sure that no meat products are coming in illegally through that stream. Then in terms of preparing if the worst were to come, we've been working a lot with provinces and industry on destruction options, on where disposal would happen, just so that we can think through all those key details before we ever have to face it for real. And then we've got a whole line of business, as the minister mentioned in her remarks, around zoning and compartments, so working with trading partners. So should it hit, we've got some good ways to keep the markets open or get them reopened very quickly. And then lastly, on communications, just to keep this top of mind for everyone.
So I would just add, I think that, as Colleen said, I think it's a quite close connection between the agency, the department, and our provincial and territorial counterparts, and industry as well, through the value chain there. And obviously part of that would be, what programming, what types of supports. I mean, the industry has certainly reached out to us on that, and that's a kind of ongoing discussion that we're having with them and the provinces and territories about what would be in place if it ever came to respond, but also what might be. Yeah, sorry.
I appreciate that. I'm going to give it over to Mr. Steinle here for the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. I have just a couple questions in regards to trade. I've met with groups like CAFTA, CCA, the Canola Council, Grain Growers, APAS, and other groups. And one thing that I've heard constantly is that after trade deals are struck, either CET, CPTPP, sometimes the tariffs aren't taken off after the deal is struck and there isn't follow-up. So I'm just wondering, what kind of cooperation is there between CFIA and Global Affairs? One example that was given was in South Korea, there's still a 10% tariff on beef being brought in from Canada, but that tariff is now taken off from Australia and the USA. So just a little bit of what's the process when following up after trade deals are signed to ensure that the countries that we've made these deals with are complying and are being deals are being honored.
Well, a couple of things I'll say, and I mean, Colleen may want to add things from CFIA's standpoint, but we do, as you allude to, work very closely with Global Affairs Canada with our missions in the jurisdiction in question, whether that's in Brussels or in parts of Europe and Asia, and with the industry to make sure we're seeing implementation go smoothly. If there are delays or if there are other issues, and one of the things we hear a lot about are non-tariff barriers that come up, we certainly work hard with all of our colleagues and with the trading partners to tackle those. Most of these agreements would come with some kind of committee structure, some kind of regular engagement structure to help tackle some of these challenges. And so we would move through those processes and others to apply pressure to resolve problems.
Thank you very much. One last question. My colleagues on the committee know we're going through a processing capacity study right now, and we had witnesses the other day that talked about some of the capacity issues are being caused by internal non-tariff trade barriers. We got an example from the president of APAS where there's different standards and qualifications to bring meat across borders. You can't sell meat that we processed in BC to Alberta or from Saskatchewan to Alberta. Some of those issues are coming and saying it's one of the reasons why we are having a bit of a capacity issue and why we can't attract more processing capacity across the country. So if you would have a few comments on that and whether if you guys do have a list of non-tariff trade barriers that you would look at across the country, it'd be nice.
Sorry, Mr. Stanley, sorry, we're out of time and I'll have to move on to Miss Lynn Bessette for 5 minutes. Go ahead, vas-y, Madame Bessette.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first question is on food waste. It's an important issue for me and for many businesses in my riding. Could you tell us about the challenge that was announced last week to reduce waste, and where is that located in the spending estimates? Yes, I'm going to call on Ms. Walker to confirm that it is in the document. We did launch the first phase of the challenge, and we're looking for innovative solutions in regard to food waste. So we're looking for entrepreneurs to come up with some innovative solutions to solve some of the broader problems. We're going to examine the different solutions, and then we're going to choose an amount of money to go to a next stage, to go a little deeper and to examine with more scrutiny some of the proposals that might be scaled up. Christine, could you confirm, is it in our budget? Are the amounts in the budget? Are you?
Chair, there's a lag in the translation, so okay. Donc, est-ce que
so they're in the budget somewhere?
Est-ce que je? Yeah. Oui.
Answer is yes. Thank you very much. The answer is yes. A second question. I note there's an increase in loan capacity for the Canada Dairy Commission. Can you explain the increase and how this loan capacity will really be able to support our dairy producers? Yes, it's increased by $200 million and in this budget year. And this has enabled the Commission to better manage the imbalance in the system that was experienced this past scream with the restaurants, the hotels closing down so quickly. There was a milk surplus, as you're well aware, all of you. So to manage the surplus and to avoid waste, which is so important to all of us, it provided flexibility to the Commission to reduce the surplus and keep it for future use. So it enabled a rebalancing of the milk market in Canada. That's an excellent explanation, and the word you used in French is perfect. There was a 22 million increase in operational costs in the estimates. Can you explain the reasons for the increase? I'm going to leave that to Ms. Walker. I believe you're still muted, Ms. Walker.
First of all, there's really three things. It's funding that was received as a result of the recent collective bargaining. The second is funding for the operations for the implementation of the food policy for Canada. And the third is funding as part of our initiative to recruit scientists.
Thank you very much. That's all. C'est tout pour moi, Monsieur le Président.
That's all for me, Chair. Well, thank you, Ms. Bissett, Ms. Walker.
And I want to thank from Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Ms. Colleen Barnes, Vice President, Policy and Program, and also from the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Mr. Chris Forbes, Deputy Minister, and also Assistant Deputy Minister Christine Walker. Thanks again for taking the time to come here and answer our question. Very much appreciate it. So that concludes the round, but we also have to vote on the main estimates. So I would ask the members to just stay in their chair for now. And if you're all ready, we have to. I've got 5 votes on separate amounts. So I shall add, and you can say whether you support it or just carry. So shall vote 1 under Canadian Dairy Commission less than the amount of $2,927,662.50 granted in interim supply carry.
On division.
So who said on division? Sorry. Okay, I'll let the clerk take the answer. So somebody said on division.
Mr. Steinley.
Mr. Steinley. Okay, on division. Anybody else has anything to add? So everybody else will carry. Okay, thank you. Number 2, shall vote 1 under Canadian Grain Commission less the amount of $822,240 and 75 cents granted in interim supply carry.
On division again, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Steinley again on division. Everybody else okay with it? Okay, carried. Shall vote 1 under Agriculture and Agri-Food less the amount of $445,371,816 and 75 cents carry.
On division, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Steinley, and everybody else is good. Okay, thank you. Shall vote 5 under Agriculture and Agri-Food less the amount of $29,947,598 and 25 cents carry.
On division.
Everybody else good? Thank you. And finally, shall vote 10 under Agriculture and Agri-Food less the amount of $395,737,008 and 33 cents carry.
On division.
On division. Thank you, Mr. Steinley. And everybody else okay? Okay, that's all the votes. And then shall I report the main estimate to the House? Are we all agreeing that I report the estimates in the House? Okay, so that is all I have. And I think, Madam Clerk, everything is good on that front. And I shall report to the House tomorrow. Okay, thank you. So great afternoon. Thanks, everyone. And we shall see you next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone. And adjourn. Thank you.